I was inducted in the service, and we got to California and to Seattle on the troop train. We were waiting we got a little leave. Then we were boarded on the W.F. Hussey ship. We're about in the middle of the ocean or what, and I looked out there, and I was sitting on the deck with the buddy, and the sea was rough. The waves were high. The ship was bobbing up and down. When that propeller got back into the water, the ship just shuddered. So I put a few words down on a piece of paper. They go like this. Life is like a ship at sea, sailing along as smooth as can be. But when the winds and waves do come, then its journey's just begun. Though the winds and waves be bad, it makes my heart a little sad that I am drifting far away from the land of the good old USA. But God rights the waves at sea just as sure as He's with me, looking down from heaven above with His tender, gracious love. When the moon comes over the mountain in a land so far from home, then my weary heart starts yearning, and I feel so all alone.
What are you looking forward to the most about this trip?
Closure. When we came back from the service and when I got out in '69, we weren't very well respected, and I'm looking for some closure. It already started. All the flags, everybody coming out to say hi, goodbye while we were coming out. I'm sure on the way home, there won't be a dry eye, so yeah.
My main tour of duty was in the evaporation system, which is making salt water into fresh water. And our job would usually be up to about 100,000 gallons a day turning into fresh water. Most of it went to the planes to launch. The catapults needed most of the water. We had 93 planes aboard our ship. And they did all their time launching planes to go to Vietnam and bomb. Then you had to do what they call mandatory volunteerism. And on that, I would go up to the hangar deck and I would spend my time pushing bombs from here to there, rockets to here to there, for the airmen to put on the airplanes. And sometimes you would do that remember, you're working 16 hours a day. So sometimes you would do that and you would get so tired you'd push 2 bombs together and make a bed out of it. Well, I got discharged off the carrier. And the first thing I remember in civilian life was, as I was walking down the gangplank, I looked off to my left, and there were people holding up signs, and they all said baby killer and all the other nasty things that they could think of, because we were not a very popular people. Matter of fact, it got so popular, the first thing I did when I got home, I gave my uniform to St. Vincent de Paul. I didn't even want to look at it anymore. And that was a tragedy. I wish I would have kept it.
I was 18 when I joined, and I was stationed at Fort McClellan for my basic training. I was one of 12 women chosen to go to school to be a missile crewman. Prior to us, only men could be in this position, so they weren't sure what to do with us because they had never had females. So when we'd use the latrine, they'd have to post guards. They had nowhere for us to sleep, so they had us in the barracks for the nurses. We all graduated. I was stationed at Fort MacArthur, San Pedro, California, and we were all assigned to headquarters of the 47th Artillery Brigade. We supported the 9 Nike missile sites that protected Los Angeles. At our last stop, one of the gentlemen called me over, and when I got next to him, in front of him, he saluted me. And no one has ever saluted me. It was very emotional.
Well, mail call is something that we always look forward to in the military. One thing, while I was over there, you've heard people getting Dear John letters. Well, I got one. My girlfriend got married while I was over there in Korea. But we always look for a mail.
We are going to do the final mail call.
The mail, of course, was slow, and the mail we got was, really outdated. It was news, but it was old news, but it was news to us.
When I got the mail call and I opened them up, the second one was from my wife, and I didn't know anything about it. I ripped it open, and it was the same person that wrote me when I served in Vietnam, and it was a very touching letter.
It's amazing the artwork that some of these kids have done. They've really put some thought in it, and it restores your faith that they're learning about what this country's about and where their freedom came from. And it's really gratifying to read what they have to say.
And I look at second graders. They try and write, spell the words they can't, but you understand what they're saying, and you appreciate that. It's unbelievable.
I was born and raised in Norway, and I was 19 years old when Germany invaded Norway. So I lived under German rule for 1 year. I knew that if I stayed there much longer, they'll get me, because I was doing things to prevent them succeeding. So we escaped to England. When the Germany invaded Norway, the king and the government were taken to London by the British, and they had started an army, navy, and air force to fight the Germans. And so I went to the Air Force and joined that. I was now a radio gunner. The first job was on a Northrop. That was a one engine on platoons. We'd be out there looking for submarines, maybe 3-4 hours, and then turn around and hope you could find Iceland.
I was assigned to the USS Tennessee in San Francisco, and our first operation was bombarding the island of Tarawa, but we did have some surface action, like in the Battle of Sagaro Strait in the Philippines. When you travel at sea during the war, you travel in a zigzag formation. It's a standard procedure. Well, we had previous problems with our steering mechanism. We were about 4 hours or so out of the port, and we were traveling in a task force we weren't able to steer, and you can't stop, and every ship avoids us except the California. And when they crossed our bow, we just crashed right into them. Our bow was damaged, but the man topside said that he could actually see California sailors in their bunk area, and supposedly some of them really didn't make it.
When I was graduating from high school in 1952, well, I wanted a good paying job, so I went to the ordnance plant in Meade, Nebraska, which is just outside of Fremont, Nebraska. And my job was loading the TNT pellets into the nose heads of the bomb and then putting this icky black glue in there too so they wouldn't slide around and explode, and then screw the nose head onto the bomb.
I was 16 years old. Korea was going on at the time, and I figured I had to do something. So I joined the National Guard, and then I got the opportunity to transfer to the Air Force. So that's what I did. I was at an air base. You know anything about service, airmen aren't carrying guns. So, but I grabbed one that was laying there and turned around, and the guy got me right in the chest. I got shot in the arm, shot in the leg, got bayoneted in the chest.
It was bitter cold, zero weather, sometimes way below zero. We had hot food some of the time. The truck drivers, they had to take a party up to the bunkers to give them ammunition. There was a GI in front and a GI in the back, and about 8 or 10 Koreans with 50 pounds of ammo on their back. Projectiles started coming in, artillery, with a great crazy whistle. So I hit the ground, and I looked around, and I didn't see anybody.
The public, for all these years, the general public has been, Korea is a forgotten effort. It's just not, So yes, I appreciate this, and I moved here and very much impressed with it.
So when you first get off the plane, you don't know what to expect. They're going to give you a rifle and you go out there and start doing things. We didn't know exactly what we were getting into. And once we got there, we found out. And you grow up pretty fast. When you get there, you may not know nothing, but until you get there, and then you just grow up like that. It changes your life,
We were on duty 12 hours and off 12.
Okay.
You either slept or played cards or whatever to pass the time. Otherwise, there wasn't a whole lot to do, but the food was terrible. Temperatures were hot. That's my biggest memories. The food and the temperatures and the living conditions weren't the best.
I worked night shift from 12 o'clock noon to 12 o'clock midnight. In Saigon at midnight, everything was closed down. The highways closed, curfew, 12 o'clock midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, I got off at midnight, and I had to go home yet. The first 2 nights, I found out real quick that I could hear. They don't know if I'm a Viet Cong or North Vietnamese or nothing. Every night when I went home, I sang Old MacDonald Had a Farm. E-I-E-I-O, Old MacDonald had a farm. And so now they knew who was coming, and I never got shot at or nothing.
my first trip home, 5 of us came in from overseas and got out, went into the main lobby there, and we was immediately surrounded by students protesting the war, surrounded us, calling us murderers and baby killers, and I was spit on. So this trip has made up for that from all the people that came out to say hi to us.
I'm proud that I served, and I just took for granted a lot and never realized that, you know, I did something that was great. Because of the people that have said it, you know, thanks for my serving for my country. And I never felt the feeling about that before, that what I did was worthwhile. Now it's different.
Gentlemen, I hope what you're going to witness the rest of the way is giving you your closure, giving you nothing but gratification and respect that you actually deserve for your service to the country. Thank you.